Welcome to Tring. Welcome to the Tring Reservoirs, the Grand Union Canal. Not the subject of today's video. What is the subject of today's video is a canal that flows backwards, and I'm meeting a man called Peter, and he is going to tell me why this video is called The Canal That Flowed Backwards. I remember coming here as a kid to look at trains because it was the closest railway to us that had overhead electric wires. But I also remember it had a huge cutting north of Tring. 30-40 years before that, 1793, Tring cutting was built, the canal cutting, alongside where the railway was to be later on. And it was one of two summit levels of the Grand Union Canal, significant levels, 36 miles from the River Thames on its journey north, 56 locks, 380 feet climb to that point. So it does hold some significance to today's story as well. Interesting, each of the locks has got one of these sort of pound areas to its right. I suspect that was used as sluices or to feed it somehow. I'm not sure, really not sure. Let me know in the comments below what are those areas for. And here we are, Lock 45 of the Grand Union Canal, and just ahead of me, the entrance to the Wendover Arm, the Wendover Canal. Old toll house just there. Braunston, 55 miles up the other summit, and Brentford, 38 miles down towards the Thames. I think if I climb over this bridge here, we'll be able to head underneath where we are now and down there, which is the Wendover Arm. Not initially built as a canal, it was actually built as a feeder because the other side of Wendover there were springs, but within a year or so they decided to turn it into a canal, a bona fide canal. It only cost another £13,000 more. We can get a lot of trade. Happy days. Look at this. What a gorgeous sight. Absolutely gorgeous sight. Beautiful toll house stuck on the corner here. The entrance to the Wendover Arm, the Wendover Canal.
Hello, my name is Peter Elwin. I am the Partnerships Director of the Wendover Canal Trust. Our objective is to restore the Wendover Canal from Bulbourne down to Wendover, where it terminates. It was built solely, originally, in order to feed the Grand Union Canal with water. And the lengths to which they had to go to do this were quite extraordinary. They had to divert streams, they had to compensate the mill owners on those streams, they had to build reservoirs later to bring water up to the canal, all in order to feed the Grand Union with very much needed water at its summit at Bulbourne, the Tring summit.
So far so good. Looks very navigable, looks very picturesque even on this miserable day. And right there you've got an overspill, and that overspill goes down into the Grand Union Canal.
It was thought that it might be useful for it to be able to carry goods as well, and it did do that, but that was a little bit of an afterthought.
One thing we've not done a lot of on this channel is explore the more industrial, the urban side of canals. Certainly makes for a different backdrop. Beautiful old mill. Even though some more modern industrial buildings adds to the backdrop and the essence of a canal. Love this.
Well, unfortunately, these wonderful objectives, feeding water from this canal, from this chalk stream, were doomed because only a few years after it was opened began to leak. So during the whole of the 19th century it progressively leaked. It eventually got to the stage later on in the 19th century where it pulled water out of the Grand Union. This is bad news for the investors. So there was nothing to do but to close it. I think it was in, if I recall correctly, it was in 1902 that it was closed in order to enable the water supply. Further along here, the water was taken down by a pipe down from the pumping station there called White Houses down to the reservoir over here, so it still sort of performs the original function.
You can tell how what a job it is to maintain a canal when all of a sudden we're in a bit that probably isn't that navigable, or maybe you could, but it's full of vegetation. I would imagine that a large part of canal maintenance is gardening, because look at this. Yes, you could get through there, but you're going to clog your workings up, I feel, somewhat. And this pathway could do with a bit of TLC as well. Oh.
And the only thing that has prevented the leakage is the Wendover Canal Trust taking on the restoration project from Drayton Beecham in particular to Little Tring and beyond to Bulbourne, and that is what it is doing now. Every single person who works for the Wendover Canal Trust is a volunteer. There are 13 trustees, trustee directors, supported by 80 or so volunteers who do the physical work.
Yeah.
And some of the trustee directors do that as well and are very expert at it.
Okay, so we're leaving the section we're at just back there with the gents, and we're going to carry on our journey towards Wendover. Drayton Bridge just up ahead. Looks pretty bleak and grey and concrete. Maybe needs that coating of nice brickwork.
Well, we do have this minor problem. Between 1918 and 1928, Tring Town Council deposited all of its household waste in the canal, which we're having to remove.
Right.
And local councils such as Dacorum and Tring, Dacorum has inherited responsibility for the canal, but both Dacorum and Tring are helping with the funding of the removal of that ash and so on, coal, household waste and so on.
So from Drayton Bridge down to this is Bridge 5A. This is a new bridge because all of this section here, as suggested, was a diversion to go underneath the A41, which is right there ahead of me. It's close. Onwards to Wendover and the springs that have never dried up, or haven't dried up in a long time. 100 years? Maybe?
We hope that in the next 3, 4, 5 years we'll have continuous water flowing all the way along to Buckland, just past Drayton Beecham. That'll enable narrow boats to go as far as Buckland.
Yeah.
And then beyond that is the next phase, which is quite a major phase, because then you're into the raising of roads.
So here is that end section. So original route of the canal would have been through there, straight line. Of course, because the A41 goes downhill from the Ridgeway down around Tring, well, that just cuts straight through the canal. So the bypass of the canal was needed. And ahead of me, gorgeous picturesque view on towards Wendover. The wildlife here is just amazing. As always with canals, they create a wildlife corridor, and there's all sorts going on ahead of me, but I'm no wildlife expert, so I just point at stuff and say ooh.
What we're always keen to have is people to work more on the networking, the public relations, the event side.
Yeah.
Historically we've concentrated on the restoration, and now we're gradually opening up. The potential for building relationships with groups is that much greater, so anybody who wants to help with that task would be great. All the towpaths such as this, which is extremely muddy in winter, to upgrade and improve, and that's at £250 to £300 per metre, but there are huge benefits resulting from that for everybody in the local area: runners, cyclists, mobility impaired, families with young children, with buggies, with everything. So that's a great project that I'm particularly keen on myself.
Just thinking about it as well, this is another road that comes out of Tring, and the culvert down there which carries the canal has got Bridge 6 on it, which is interesting because obviously there's no bridge here, just a culvert, but a big culvert, so I wonder if those are the original numbers on the bridges. I guess so. I've come as far to the end of the canal and beyond. And this is the area where all the springs were. So we'll just see what we can find. The springs are obviously flowing very well at the moment. Clearly it's just the end of winter. And yeah, I'm not going to see any springs, I guess, but here we are. Here's a stream that would feed into it from the springs, perhaps further back there. And even the culverts there are sort of canal-like in their construction, with inverted section underneath it. And I wonder where the canal started. That's my only question, or ended, depending on your perspective.
There have been a number of organisations that have been helping us just in the last few years while I've been associated with. On the towpath front, the Department of Transport has been phenomenally helpful via an HS2 fund, and we're very grateful to the Department of Transport for that. But also local councils have been very supportive, local charities. I'd like to thank them for all the funding support they've given, but also other local councils such as Dacorum and Tring with the restoration work.
And here we are, end of the line, the end of today's journey. We found some springs, or the area where the springs would have come from, and gathered into the small stream. And here is a rather picturesque wharf sat just to the, I guess, north-west of Wendover. Big thanks to the Trust and their time today, and you can click on their links in the description below, pinned comment and all that. And yeah, if you're local, go and help out. Thanks for watching, see you this time next week.